Welcome back everybody. So today, before we start actually, for the people that don't know me, hey, I am Marsh. I'm the #1 Bloodhound on Apex Legends currently with over 105,000 kills. Currently number 50 pred. And for the people that do know me, I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you guys for supporting me. Just gonna throw a like goal out there about let's say 200 likes in the first day, and I'll be more than happy if ever you guys could do that. I love you guys. The giveaway winner isn't announced yet. I'm going to be doing a little bit more. I'm gonna let a little bit more people say their favorite animal in the last video for the giveaway. Next video I will be announcing the winner. So today for you guys, I have the most detailed tier list I have ever made, or that's even on YouTube at all. Now I'm just recording this first segment right here. If ever it gets too long, I'm gonna make part 2. So welcome to the possible part 1 of a tier list, the most detailed tier list. We're gonna go over every legend, their abilities, advantages, weaknesses, what they counter, what they synergize with, which legends they're good against, which situations they're good, what you could do with those legends. I'm going to go over absolutely every single thing, every single detail, every speck of ability that a legend has will be in this tier list. Now most tier lists are made to get views, to sort of get you guys to keep coming back to the channel and put content down there. This one is legit to help you guys. This tier list is legit made so you guys can know what to use, with what to use it, and when to use it, in which situations they're good, and what to position yourself with that legend. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. I'm gonna start, and you guys are in for the long haul, but it's worth it, I promise. So I just finished recording the first part of Bloodhound. I wasn't satisfied with it because I sort of repeated myself and stuttered with it, but this list might actually be longer than I thought, so this may be possibly the part 1 out of 3, since I might do each line, since the part I just recorded took 5 minutes. It tells you everything you need to know about Bloodhound, but again, it is pretty long. So without further ado, let's start. And before I do start, out of habit, I may call Bloodhound a he. It is not intended on purpose, and I apologize to anybody it may offend. I will try to correct myself or just not do it, but again, it's not something I have power over if I don't realize it. I apologize for it. So let's start off with Bloodhound being a recon character. A recon character is essential to a team. Their main purpose in the game as a recon character is to get information on the map, on the enemies, on what they use, on what they have. Bloodhound's passive is Tracker, which allows them to see tracks through, allowing them to know how many people were there, how long ago they were there, which guns they used, which abilities they used, basically allowing them to know everything about a team. Their tactical is Eye of the Allfather, basically releasing a scan of a 75-meter perimeter of an upside down cone shape directly in front of Bloodhound. Now this allows them to see enemies, ordnance, and trap, even other legends abilities such as crypto drones. Now this is good because it allows you to see rats, it prevents ambushes, it allows you to get an advantage over another enemy in an actual in-game fight, as you know exactly where they are when they're going to peek the corner, what they're doing, if they're healing, if somebody is singled out. Now their ultimate is Beast of the Hunt, allowing for a speed boost, threat vision, increase in field of view. There was something else that I'm missing. Oh yeah, and cooldown on scans being reduced. Now this is the best ultimate in the game in my opinion. Not only does it add to Bloodhound's kit already, but it increases the power of their passive and their tactical, reducing the cooldown of their tactical, increasing the amount of tracks you see, at which length you see them, and at which distance you see them. It increases the amount of tracks you see in general. It doubles the amount of tracks, to be more precise, and you can see tracks through roofs and floors without having to scan. Now this is amazing, just because the amount of information you can get from that don't even have to be engaged. I sometimes use Bloodhound's ult just to see where people are positioning, what they're doing in a building without even having to be in the building. This is great for rotations, positioning. Bloodhound can win their 1v1s more easily while outstrafing the opponent and seeing them a lot clearer. And again, all of Bloodhound's abilities benefit the entire team. They are not a solo legend. They benefit the entire team, which honestly gives the entire team wall hacks, gives the entire team a constant flow of information that they can see without even having to communicate through voice chat. Now their main use on a team is further scans. Information in ranked is the most important thing. It helps with pushes, retreats, positioning, rotations, and in-game fights. Now all of this combined together already just makes Bloodhound an S tier legend. We're going to go more into his advantage over other characters, disadvantages, and counters, and a little bit about Bloodhound's main use. Bloodhound is a wall hack. His abilities have a reasonable cooldown, which is made very, very short by their ultimate. They can scan beacon, allowing for more information when rotating and positioning. Their passive also allows you to know where, how many people, which legends, and even which guns they are shooting. Their scans also allow for easy KP, which is kill points, which is the amount of points you get in rank for kills and assists. They will be referred as KP throughout the entirety of these 3 guides, so please do not forget that. And it prevents you from getting ambushed by another team. Now all of this is insanely useful. Positioning in ranked, and I cannot stress this enough, you can be an entire team of gold 3 and make it to masters if you have the right positioning. Positioning in Apex Legends ranked is the most overpowered thing. That with rotations, knowing when to rotate and where to position will win you games 10 times out of 10 if done right. Bloodhound allows for so much information to go through, so much information on the next ring, on enemies, where they are, what they're doing, what they have in that building, who you push and who you don't. He is insanely high on this list. He is one of the highest S tiers there is on this list. Some people arguably say, like for example Imperial Hall says that Bloodhound is the most overpowered legend in Apex right now, and he is not the only one. A lot of people have that opinion. Personally, I don't think so. I think Valkyrie is the most overpowered one, which gives you a little giveaway of she will be on the list. But again, let's keep sticking to Bloodhound. He is they are insanely overpowered. Definitely taking an S tier. Now, as for their advantages, they have an advantage over Bangalore's, over Caustics due to the negation of their visual impairments, which means that Bangalore Smoke and Caustic is an advantage to Bloodhound and a disadvantage to their own users. Do you know how it sucks to be a Bangalore facing a good Bloodhound? Your abilities are absolutely and utterly useless. Same with Caustic. Caustic's abilities to be able to defend his team, and he actually fucks them over if ever he puts a wrong trap and gets his entire team killed because they can't see anything through his gas, while the Bloodhound on the opposing team is beaming them through that, and he allows for his entire team to negate smokes and gas just because of his scans, their scans. Again, and another one that you guys might not know about, Bloodhound renders Mirage entire kit useless. The only Mirage that outputs tracks is the real one. Decoys do not output tracks, which means that a Bloodhound constantly knows which Mirage is the real one. And when on their ult, Bloodhounds can see a red flare behind the real Mirage. So again, rendering his passive, tactical, and ultimate completely and utterly useless. Mirage is hard countered by Bloodhound. He has also they have an advantage over anybody who doesn't have a speed boost when Bloodhound is on their ult. Well, for obvious reasons, because Bloodhound have a speed boost on their ult. The only disadvantage I can find with Bloodhound is if you scan or pop your ult at the wrong time while you're in the open or in a 1v1, you can get easily beamed, as the animation cancels climbing and doesn't allow you to shoot during their animation. So again, popping ult or scan at the wrong time can get you killed. That is a disadvantage, and the only one I found. And Bloodhound has no counter. Nobody in the game yet can negate information, negate scans. Actually, they do have a counter. Revenant's the only counter. Revenant's a counter to every legend in the game, which is why I don't usually put him there. But if we want to be very in-depth, Revenant counters Bloodhound, and he is the only one who counters Bloodhound. So this is it for Bloodhound. Let's move on to the second legend. So Gibby is a defensive character, but also has a lot of aggressive capabilities. His passive is Gun Shield, which basically soaks up 50 damage from outcoming source, whether it be grenades, abilities, or firepower from other guns. It blocks most of his front side's abdomen and some of his thighs, which honestly is basically his entire body. It is very, very large. It only leaves a portion of his head and his legs uncovered, which honestly his head is hard to hit. and his legs are usually not aimed at because nobody aims at the floor. So his gun shield soaks up 50 damage, regens pretty quickly too, and can be regened by popping a cell. His tactical is Dome of Protection, which shields him from any outcoming damage. Him and his team. He throws down a bubble which secures an entire radius from any outcoming damage source, whether it be abilities, gunfire, ordnance, or anything else. Anybody inside the dome is protected for a limited amount of time, and his ultimate is a defensive bombardment, which is basically a cluster strike of mortars which hit very, very hard, but his ultimate is short and it is very confined in, if we're talking about areas. He also has another passive which is Fortified. It basically reduces incoming damage by 15%, and Gibby is not slowed by bullets, which is often left out in tier lists. His main use on the team is for protection, but also pushes. Surprisingly, a lot of people do not know Gibraltar's aggressive power. For most of the time in a ranked game, Gibby is there to throw bubbles or domes down to either rotate short distances in crowded areas, to shield one of their teammates if they are getting beamed, or to revive a team faster in a bubble, which is why Gibby should always have a gold bag if a lifeline is not present. Gibby is a well-versed defensive character. His kit also allows for fast revives, nearly instant protection from anything outside his bubble's radius. For him and his team, his bubble can also be used to push, whether it be teams that are holding head peaks to close the distance between them and have cover when you back up, or if a team is on top of a roof on top of you, place a bubble at the door and you'll be shielded while climbing up from the team on the roof or any team behind you, and you'll remain covered for the most part of your body if staying in the bubble when you're engaging the team on the roof, as the bubble is quite tall. His ultimate forces rotation or abilities out of teams. When used correctly, can even kill entire teams if left unattended while in the radius. He is also the hardest legend to beat one-on-one if used correctly. While ADSing, Gibby is extremely hard to kill. A good Gibby can be an absolute threat to a team. He has advantages over pretty much everybody because his gun shield and fortified makes him extremely hard to kill, because his defensive capabilities are upped, but his aggressive capabilities are kept at the same level as other legends. So he basically takes more damage to down than any other legend, while outputting as much damage as them. Gibby's disadvantage is pretty blatant. Gibby's big. He's often team fight first, as he is probably the biggest threat on a team, and his hitbox is absolutely huge. Gibby again is an S tier legend on this list. He's great for ranked. He synergizes well with anybody else on the team, especially Valkyrie when using her ultimate. Placing a Gibby bubble down can secure a Valkyrie while she's using her ultimate and getting their team out of a situation, or he's just good to protect anybody. His counters are basically Revenant, as Revenant cancels his dome, his gun shield. He doesn't cancel out Fortified, but again, Revenant is counter to pretty much every legend. Bangalore and Caustic also counter Gibby, as their visual impairments allow them to see him while he can't see them, because most of the Caustic and Bangalores will run digi threats, as it is their kit to block off visions. So that is about it for Gibby. He is definitely an S tier in ranked, and he's an absolute menace to anybody who goes against him. So moving on to Lifeline. She is a tier B character. She is a support character, which means her role in the game is basically to be there to assist the other legends. Her passive is Combat Revive, which allows her to revive 2 teammates at once and without having to actually do the full revive, although there is an animation that leaves Lifeline slowed and unable to do anything for a second after starting the revive. Her tactical is the Dock Drone, which basically heals anybody within a very small radius, giving out a maximum amount of health distributed evenly between everybody around the drone. It is good if you're coming out of storm or you are low on heals, or it can also be used during fights to give you a small tiny advantage over your opponent while you are healing a little bit during the fight. Her Dock Drone does not last in storm, which is very unfortunate. Her ultimate is the Care Package, will basically give you a slot for heals, a slot for an upgraded piece of armor, and a slot for an upgraded piece of attachment, or an attachment, without saying a piece of attachment. Her only use on a team really is for healing and reviving, so she should always have the gold bag. She's the best character with a gold bag. She can clutch situations if given the opportunity, while reviving both teammates if, let's say, they both get knocked on high ground or somewhere they are not exposed, because her revive does not shield them anymore. She can get both of them up at once, which is pretty good, but again, they have to be covered. Lifeline is a great support character. Her ultimate offers heals, upgrades on weapons and armor, and her dog drone can be amazing if your team runs out of heals after coming out of a storm, even if her drone does not last in storm. Most of her power comes from her passive, which allows an autonomous revives while reviving both at once. She can be used, she used to be much higher on the list, but ever since the nerf or rework she got, she has not had as many advantages as she once had. She really doesn't have any advantage over anybody. The only advantage she has going for her is her small hitbox, which is the second smallest in the game. She has no movement abilities or anything to get out of a situation, and is very team reliant. And she gets countered by basically almost anything. Revenant counters her as it cancels her abilities. Caustic and Bangalore with their visual impairments, and anybody with a speed boost counters Lifeline. She's tier B because her abilities are good, but there are better abilities for a team. Gibby can handle the revives and offer much more defensive capabilities. Even Mirage is a little higher than Lifeline, as his abilities Lifeline leaves her teammates vulnerable while being revived. Her care package doesn't offer much use in ranked, because most of the time it'll get you killed by attracting other teams to you, letting them know that you're looking for either heals or better pieces of armor. Your guns are not kitted, because if you're calling in a care package, you need something. Her drone doesn't last in storm when you need it the most. It has very limited usage, and while she deploys it, it leaves her in an animation which leaves her vulnerable, so it has to be placed preventively as well. She isn't very high in the list. I'd put her very mid. She's decent, but there are much better characters than her in ranked. Pathfinder is a recon legend. His tier on this list is he is a tier A legend. His passive is Insider's Knowledge, which allows for cooldown on his zips when scanning beacons. His tactile is a grappling hook that can swing him basically anywhere. And his ultimate is a zipline gun, which shoots a zipline for him, his team, or anybody that takes it to be able to use. His use on a team are aggressive, but mainly for rotations or transitions to high ground. He's great at quickly transporting his team to high ground and positions or across large areas. While knowing where the next zone is, he can be great at taking amazing positions. A lot of top preds use Pathfinder for this. He not only allows for scanning beacons, but after you scan the beacon, going to the correct spot, even if it's on high ground, is very, very easy with Pathfinder. Pathfinder has an amazing survivability with his grapple. He can get away from basically any situation and even outrun Octanes. Although his zipline is great for that, it does leave you very vulnerable while taking it, so Pathfinders do have to be wary about where and when they do place their ziplines. Pathfinder has a great kit, allowing him and his team to have high ground at any given time. His ultimate charge is very short, and so is his tactical. Pathfinder got a higher tier on this list than last season because, again, the removal of low profile. His grapple allows him to either catch up to his team, enemies running away, or getting to high ground very, very quickly, or even outmaneuvering opponents that aren't used to seeing Pathfinders do either 360s or fancy stuff with the grapples. You see so many plays with Pathfinders of just grappling over and under people. He has a lot of things that remain undiscovered in his kit and has a lot of surprise effect. His zip does leave the entire team vulnerable to attacks while on it, so they are very easy pickings if the zip line is placed wrong. He doesn't really have an advantage over anybody, but he doesn't really have a disadvantage versus anybody, and his only real counter is Revenant. Again, Caustic and Bangalore do not counter him because he can grapple out of any situation over any visual impairments, or he doesn't really get affected by any of it. The only real counter to Pathfinder is Revenant. He's a very good character. I do think there are some better additions to a team to him, but if ever you're solo, Pathfinder is absolutely great for ranked. So moving on to Wraith. Wraith is an S tier character. She is an assault character, so her use on the team is to be the first one to engage an enemy team. Her survivability is off the charts, and her small hitbox lets her remain mostly unscathed from 1v1s. And if she does start losing them, her phase allows her to get back to safety quickly and without taking any further damage. She's also great for rotations due to her portal. Wraith is an awesome kit, allowing a mix of solo and team play. In her 1v1, she often comes out on top because she has a rather small hitbox, but if she starts losing them again, she phases back and gets back to safety quickly. Her passive allows for Wraiths to call out to their team when they are threatened, and her portal allows for quick and safe rotations back and forth. Her portals can also change in initial engagements by kidnapping an enemy, which automatically makes the enemy die because there's an entire team waiting for him on the other side, but puts your team at a huge advantage because you've just turned it into a fair 3v3 into a 2v3, which is honestly an insane advantage. She has advantages over pretty much everybody because of her small hitbox, and she has absolutely no disadvantages. Ever since they took low profile off, Wraith has been dominant in the meta. Her counters, she doesn't really have any apart from Revenant against canceling her abilities, and Gibby because he is so hard to kill with his gun shield. Sort of like the same concept as Wraith. She's small and hard to hit, but Gibby's big and takes less damage, so they sort of counter each other. There's not much more to say about Wraith. She's been around for a very, very long time. She's been in S for most of her career until low profile, where she's been an A or a B, but now she's back at S, and I believe that Wraith will stay in this any meta that comes along, just because of her kit is very versatile. Unlike Pathfinder, she can get you to high ground in rotations, but unlike Pathfinder again, her rotations are very safe because you cannot get hit while you're in the portal. It is quicker and it stays there for you to be able to go back and forth very quickly. Again, Wraith is an S tier and she will remain so until they change her kit. So for the last person on the list, we have Bangalore. I put her at tier A for this list. She is an assault character. Her passive is double time, which basically gives her a 30% speed boost when shot at or threatened. Her tactical is smokes, so she shoots out a smoke grenade from a smoke gun that will smoke an area temporarily. And her ultimate is a creeping barrage. This is basically a large area missile strike that blows up row by row. Her use on a team is mostly to facilitate pushes or retreats, or make rotations safer and force rotations out of enemies. Bangalore is a very good kit, but only in the hands of a seasoned Bangalore main. Her smokes provide cover. They can also blind enemies while you are rotating. In engagements, Bangalore mostly comes out on top of her 1v1s because of her double time, making her very hard to hit. And a good Bangalore main will be running a digital threat to use with her smokes aggressively. Her smokes can also be used to blast doors open, leaving teams inside vulnerable. Her ultimate forces rotations out of teams, as it covers a very large area and left unattended can down you if you are not full. It also provides the much needed time in case of retreating, stopping enemies from chasing you. If you're hit by her ult, enemies will remain stunned for what seems like an eternity, which leaves them again very vulnerable to anybody in the area. Bangalore is great for covering people, for rotating, for again blinding enemies, or just being annoying, keeping smokes in a building, rendering an entire team inoffensive. She has advantages over almost anybody due to her movement speed, but her disadvantages is again seasoned Bangalore mains. If ever you're running with a Bangalore that isn't used to running this character, she is C or B tier. Her smokes can blind her own team and her ult can stun her own team. A Bangalore is probably the character that can get her team killed the most in ranked. A bad Bangalore will do more harm than good. So her counters are pretty obvious: Revenant, Caustic, another Bangalore, or Bloodhounds primarily, because Bloodhounds can render most of Bangalore's kit useless. So that is it for this list right now. just the first row of the Apex Legends were done. We will be covering more of the Legends in the next part. It's either going to be the last part or it'll be the second out of the third. We will see whenever we do make that part. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, Wraith, Bloodhound, and Gibby are S tier. Lifeline is B tier. Pathfinder and Bangalore are A tier. If ever you guys had to pick, again, try to go with the S tiers. All of them work well together. And try to pair them with other S tiers from the other lists. Hopefully this helps with your ranked comps. Now again, this isn't for pubs as everything works for pubs, but I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will see you guys for the part 2 of this list.